Hello friends, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first day I get to celebrate my friends, which is a really exciting, happy day for me. If you've been watching the series of me making the junk journal binder, or the binder junk journal, however you want to phrase it, you know my intention for that is to organize all the happy mail and items that I have accumulated over the last few years with my online paper community. And all of us have a journey that we go on when we find junk journals and paper, and we all have our own niches, right? Some of us are junk journal makers, some people are collage artists, some people like doing happy mail or postcards or artist cards, or there's a million little niches within the paper community. And I think a lot of us kind of layer. We belong to several. We have lots of little things that we love. We maybe love to make journals and we love to collage. I personally love to make junk journals, but I love to get really messy with art journals and mixed media. So our journeys all take these kind of interesting paths, and we don't really know when we begin where we're going to end up. And on this journey, you also don't know who you're going to meet, who is going to inspire you, and who is going to end up being your friend, and who is going to travel this paper journey with you. And today I'm so incredibly happy to talk about the first person that I reached out to and how our friendship grew. I started this journey about 4 to 5 years ago. I had been lurking in the paper world, been doing things on my own, been following people, and I saw people doing pen pals and happy mail and exchanging. I really didn't know what that looked like, how people fell into pen pal relationships, why they got happy mail, how they hooked up with people with happy mail. It was all so confusing to me. I really had no idea how it all started. And then one day, one of the girls that I followed, Dodges and Daisies, Kim, said, I'd like to do a postcard swap with someone. And she did this very frequently. This wasn't like a one-up. This was like what she did. She would put a bunch of postcards out there. She would post the backs of them like on her site. And then she would say, who wants to swap with me? And you might say, oh, I'd love that Vanity Fair one. And she would take down your address and she would send you a postcard. And it was always sort of cutely decorated, and this was the first one I did. I said I would love to swap with you, and I was nervous because I really didn't know how this was going to work. And look, she didn't know me at all. So what she did was, thanks for swapping. She put her name, she put her IG, and then this little collage with a gnome, which I absolutely adore gnomes. So she might have maybe gone on my Insta and looked at the kind of things I had, and she wrote, have a good day. It was very simple, very non-committal, very not scary at all, right? There wasn't a lot of commitment there. And so then I sent her a postcard in return. And she has her regular pen pals, but I would just sort of speak up when she would have one of those general ones where she'd put a bunch of them out there and ask who wants to swap. So here was another one that I did with her. I had just gone to Nashville, and she had a whole series of cities all over the country. Now this one, we know each other a little bit better, so she's written more, which I'm not going to show you. Probably something pretty generic because, the postman can read it. And always with vintage stamps and a little bit of collage, and just really fun to get in the mail. And then at the holiday time, she sent me this one, which is an original design. If you go check her out, and I'm going to give you all of her information over the course of this video. I'm just not going to bring it all up at this second because I don't want to overwhelm you. I just want to talk more about the story of how I became friends with Kim and what she means to me. So Kim is now doing a lot of her own illustrations, and she sells her own kits, and she did a little, and she loves gnomes like I love gnomes, which is very exciting to me. And she has this design that she made at the holiday time, and she sent me one of her holiday ones, and this was December of 2020. She sent me a little Christmas greeting with one of her original designs, which I loved because, first of all, I love mushrooms, I love the gnomes, and I grew up with this van. It was in a different color, but it was a very important part of my childhood. So I absolutely love these cards. And I, truth be told, had all 3 of these cards hanging on my wall for the entire time that I've been in this crafting community. I just keep adding her cards. I have like a little clothesline, and taking them down was a little sad to me, but I really want to put them in my binder. And these 3 cards mean a lot to me because even though they're only 3 cards, Kim and I have developed a friendship over the years where I know I could exchange with her anytime I wanted to. In fact, we did do more of a mail exchange at the beginning, where she did do a happy mail exchange with me, which was my first real happy mail exchange, where she sent me some goodies. I still have one envelope from it. I was better at that point about using the things people sent me. I still have this one envelope that she created that I'd like to incorporate. But Kim and I have supported each other. We've written to each other. We send messages to each other, and we've actually even supported each other's businesses. These are all things I've purchased from Kim. These beautiful postcards that she creates herself from vintage images. They're on high quality cardstock. And of course I bought them, and did I use them? No. Because why? Because I hoard pretty things. But I'm going to do better. I'm going to use these. I also ordered these stamps from her, which I absolutely love, for my happy mails. I can put this on the envelope, or I can stamp these and then trim around them. This one's great for addresses. She has a wonderful, wonderful paper shop that she has online, and she sells postcards and washi tape and stationery type things from other artists, but then she has her own digitals. She has her own line of things as well, and it's very carefully curated. I also bought this washi tape from her, which I think is just beautiful. I love ferns and woodland, and so I'm going to be using a little bit of that today. So what I have today is I have this envelope that she sent me, that she had created for me on our first swap 4 or 5 years ago. I have the 3 postcards that she sent me over the years. I have some packaging from the orders I have. I have these postcards that I can use. I can do some stamping. But I have something really exciting to tell you. Something I'm going to use today, and another gift for you. And it's a gift from Kim. Kim is going to make one of her digitals free for the month of July. So if you're watching this video in July of 2022, you can go to her website at Dodges and Daisies. I'm going to put the website actually on the screen now, and I'm also going to put it in my description box. That is her personal website. You can go there and you can push shop and go into her shop, and you will find this beautiful digital of 4 woodland fairy nymphs from I don't know how old these images are, probably early 1900s, late 1800s, and she has them in a kit that you can download for free as a gift from her. And look at this, look at the beautiful stamp on it. So I'm going to be using these as well in my layout today. The last but not least, one of the things I do want to share with you is this magazine in her studio, which you may be familiar with. this past issue, and I bought this because my friend was in it. Actually, I didn't even buy it. It was a gift to me from a friend of mine who works in a bookstore who I told I would really love to find this magazine, and she sent it to me. So thank you, Deborah, for gifting this magazine to me, because it means a lot to me, because my friend's article is in there. And in here, you can probably see a copy of this somewhere on her website, is a whole article about her and her studio, about her personal aesthetic, and just tells you more about the beautiful work that Kim does. Her Instagram is just beautiful. She started a YouTube channel. There's my beautiful friend right there. That's my beautiful friend Kim. And I hope that you will go to her shop. You will look at her website, go to her Instagram and her socials. She has such a great aesthetic, and it's just so calming and beautiful and pretty. She was a professional photographer before she came into this paper stationery business, and it really shows. She's as beautiful inside as she is out, and I think you'll really enjoy learning more about her. So let's get started on my spread for Dodges and Daisies. And it's voiceover time. So here we are. We're starting the project, and I'm just showing you that I've already pre-cut the page we're going to use from the template that I created in the last video. So it's just a file folder cut down using the template, and then with the 3-hole punches. So I'm now taking all the items that I want to use today and putting them aside, and I know I'm going to start with her freebie. I love these images so much. They're so romantic. And I decided I want to use some really precious paper. See the New York? She's from New York. Kim is from New York, and she loves vintage things. This is from a ledger I have, a receipt ledger from 1857. That's right, 1857. These pages are what? I don't know. I can't do the math in my head, but we're talking about what, maybe 180 years old, 175 years old. And I want to use them on this spread. I love the patina. I love the writing. And because it's from the New York Railroad Company, I think it really goes well with Kim, and I am just happy to use them in her spread. So I've cut out a couple of the receipts. Originally, I thought I was just going to lay the paper down, but it kind of looked boring, you know? It just looked too straight. And I would really encourage you to think about doing things like that instead of just putting a straight sheet of paper down, a straight piece of scrapbook paper, a book paper. Alternate a couple different papers and put them in different directions. It just adds a lot of interest to the background. Now I'm just going to cut out a few little snippets of from the digital. I want to use some of the colors and some of the items I've used just to bring that continuity into this piece. By turning items diagonally, you have these little spaces. You're going to see a little bit of the folder underneath, which I really don't want to see. So these are just sort of like to peek through, just a hint of color and texture that's consistent with the rest of the project. And now I'm just sort of laying down the pieces, and I'm like, those erratic hand movements you just saw was me saying, yes, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to glue these now in each corner, and that's going to just give the basis of what I'm going to put the receipts down. So I'm just putting them in the corners so that those little pieces of file folder that peek through aren't file folder. They're something pretty, and makes a much better background. So I'm now just trying to figure out where I need the pieces. I'm going to trim off that little snippet, because you never know when you need a little piece of paper that's consistent with your project. I might as well cut off any extra. I'll probably use it. Okay, I don't know if you can tell this from the camera, but you can see through this paper, and there's a pretty significant watermark there. So I'm just going to grab a piece of book page, an antique piece of book page, and I'm just going to like throw some on in the background, a very loose collage. It's really nothing to think about, nothing to worry about. I'm just going to put it in different directions so that it doesn't, so you're not distracted by, a very specific pattern. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just doing this so that nothing in the background stands out through that kind of see-through piece of paper, right? I really don't want that watermark or anything else being distracting. So just putting, text in different directions, it's enough to like tamp down anything that would be distracting in the background. And we're going to put so much on this collage, it probably wouldn't have mattered, but this is the way my brain thinks. I don't like the thought of making a pretty collage and then being able to see a file folder watermark, blend through, especially when I'm putting down paper from the 1850s. I want it to all just look so romantic and dreamy and pretty. And I think this will help. And in the end, it does help. I don't know how necessary it is, but just know that that's an option for you. Oh, look at this is such thin paper. It had a second receipt on top, and I didn't even know it. Like I was saying, when you're working with very thin paper like this, you just need to be cognizant of what you can see through it. That's all. So now I'm just gluing it down with a glue stick, and I'm going to fold over the edges because I want to see the actual layout, but I'm not ready to cut those edges off because I don't know if I'm going to bleed them over into the next collage. I really like that. I really like how that came out. I like the interest. I like the angles. And now I can place the images on top of the collage, the background paper. So this is just printed out on regular copy paper. It's really not that exciting of a printout, and I really want to enhance the picture. So I just take a water bottle and I spray into my gilding wax to activate the gilding wax. It's come to my attention recently that not all gilding wax becomes activated with water. I guess it depends on the brand and what the base is, but mine does. And I'm just kind of putting gold on the edge so that the edges look a little bit better and it doesn't look just like plain paper. I also decide it would be nice to splatter some gold splatter marks on the picture as well. I have a Tim Holtz splatter brush, which I generally don't think Tim Holtz brushes and things like that are a big deal, but this one works great. I have to say, splattering can sometimes you can't control it sometimes, or certain brushes work better. I really like how this splatter brush not only leaves splatters, a lot more control, but it's very easy to clean. So I don't generally make recommendations on those kinds of things, but I will say I do like this product. So I'm just adding some gold metallic splatters. And because this is gilding wax, it's not very opaque. It's not going to be like these paint splatters. It's just going to sort of be a hint of sparkle and a little hint of discoloration on the image, which I really want. I want it to sort of just melt into the image and kind of just make it look a little bit more magical. I'm putting ink on around this picture because I have gilding wax around the other picture, so I'm just going to be consistent with framing. This is Kim's logo and just a little extra from the packaging. She sent one of my orders in, and I want to use this in my collage because, this is all about Kim and her company. She also had this piece of eyelash trim that's kind of sparkly and magical, and I kind of feel like I want to make it into like a curtain of stars falling around these beautiful nymphs. I want the idea of sort of like magic and twinkle, and the way the woman's arm is faced up, I just like it there. You also saw me put in a dried daisy. That's because Kim's business is a lot about daisies. It's one of her favorite things, and I just think it'll really pull together not only the design, but it'll be a little nod to my friend, which this is kind of the point of making this Happy Mail binder, is celebrating the friendships, thinking about my friends, and putting details in the work that are very genuinely me, but also reflect what I've learned about the people in my life. So do you see the sort of subtle discoloration and twinkle that comes from that gilding wax. Now I'm going to work on the little curtain. The washi tape was on the packaging, so I want to keep that on there, but I want to sort of like untangle this so that I can kind of control the little curtain look. I want to snip it so that it's hanging kind of where I want it. I definitely want it to hit the top picture, and I want that woman's arm up as if she's reaching for these twinkling stars that are coming from the sky. And I also want it to reach the bottom picture because I want that kind of consistency. I want that focal point that takes your eye from the top to the bottom. And I love the movement and how I'm not going to really, other than putting a little bit of stitching that you see right here, I'm really not going to try to control that eyelash trim. I like it kind of being free floating. And here's where I realize I shouldn't have glued the entire picture because I wanted to tuck part of Kim's logo underneath the picture. But that's not a big deal. I'll just cut it and lay it flush. It's pretty much the same. I'll just try to pull up a little edge and tuck it right under the edge of the picture, and that'll work just as well. And I decide to move it down just a hair because I think I want to play around more with those dry flowers. I really love the idea of adding the daisies to my collage, but I'm a little worried about the fragility of the daisies and it being in a book. I'm also not sure what to do with this piece of tissue paper from the packaging. I like the continuity of adding it because of the washi tape, but it is a little bright, and I don't know how well it goes. I decide to commit and glue it down, and you'll see that was a little bit of a mistake, but in the end, it ends up working out well. But this will not be the first time I mess around with that piece of packaging. Okay, so as I glue this in, I decide I'm going to add a little bit more of the tissue paper in a couple other spots on the spread. One, to make it a little bit more consistent, and also because I really love the translucency of tissue paper and how you can just add little tiny splashes of color on top of a layout, and they just sort of melt right in. Now I'm going to take that little piece of scrapbook paper that I cut off, and I'm going to build another layer. The blue is behind the receipt, and now I want a layer on top of the receipt, just so that I'm sort of stacking layers and taking elements and making sure that they're behind and on top. I don't know, it's just that's what collaging is. It's building layers. It's a slow process. It's also a process I really find relaxing, especially when I'm not building like the first few videos you saw me building parts of the book. And, that part is very much, I'm trying to be logical. I'm building functional pieces. Here, I'm just playing. I'm just making art. I'm making art with my friend in mind. I'm not in a rush. I find this all so relaxing and fun. It is challenging because it's still collage and you're still trying to think of balance and color, but it's not challenging in the same way. It's challenging, I think, in a very fun way. So I am now deciding not to use pressed flowers without some protection because it's on a moving piece of paper that I'm going to be going inside. So I have these little laminated pieces left over from my envelope project. And you can see that video on my channel. Really fun lamination envelopes made out of flowers and lamination pouches. And I had some daisies left over, so I think I'm going to use them in this layout. And I've decided I do not like that piece I put down. But I'm not going to worry about taking all the little pieces of paper off because I have tissue paper sprinkled throughout this layout. And here I have to apologize. When I pulled the yellow piece of paper off and I was trying on bits and pieces for this layout, I shut the camera off so that I could go get my die cuts. And I forgot to turn the camera back on, so you did not see me put this bee die cut down. You also didn't see me trim out the lamination flowers a little bit closer. I sort of fussy cut them out and then I glued them on, as well as gluing this bee on over the tissue paper. I also ran the file folder through my sewing machine and just randomly put in stitches in sort of a, a free-flowing way. I apologize for not having those details on camera, but I think you guys understand what I did. It was just a matter of gluing a few more elements on and sewing. But I'm really happy with this layout. I think it's simple, but yet there is a lot going on. You can see the vintage paper. It really shows her gorgeous pictures. And the only last thing I think I want to add is some stamps. I think I want to add some vintage stamps to pull in the whole happy mail thing and to just sort of, I have a feeling these pictures are probably French, so I'd like to add some French stamps as well as the last little final embellishment to this spread, this first spread. And I think that reflects Kim really well. Now I need to do the second side, the fold-out side. So I take out a piece of ledger, which I didn't really like because of the blue type. And I really have no idea what I'm doing. This is the way I work. I just like to sort of throw things around, lay them out. But I find when I'm trying to figure out a layout, I try to figure out what the use is. And I'm trying to use the elements that I know I want to include and see if they fit, see how they lay out. And I grabbed this little gift card envelope that I had gotten from my friend Nancy from Paper Craft Arts. And I kind of like how that could be a little flap over the side. And that's the whole thing. When I'm playing around with the pieces of the puzzle, as it were, that's when ideas start coming to me. That's when I start thinking about how I'm going to use things. So I decide to use that little flap. I take a piece of the Atlas digital kit that I'm using for this project. It's from Mad Paper Crush. The links are below. I really want to make this flap as easy as possible on myself. And like I said, using scrapbook paper or using a kit, a lot of that basic work in the background is done for you. So you can kind of speed up a layout if you use something that already has a bit of collage on it. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm adding the fold overs from my vintage receipts onto something that has already been digitally collaged. And it works. It works really great. And it brings those colors I'm looking for in. And I'm happy with this being my base and working from there. So now that I have the base, I'm going to figure out how I'm going to integrate pieces and parts for Kim. Here's a little corner of the receipt, one of those receipts I showed you, and I want to integrate that again with my newer pieces. I love taking old ephemera and mixing it with new images or new ephemera, scrapbook paper, things like that. So first I need to cover this very white envelope, and I'm going to do that with Tim Holtz tape. These tapes have been great for this project. I wish I knew the collection, but if you just look at Tim Holtz collections, he has several that are ledger-based and ephemera-based, and they're all really beautiful, so you can't really go wrong. And they're really easy for a project like this to be able to trim out an envelope. Now I'm ripping a little bit more off so I can see in that window a little bit more. And I'm trying to decide if I want it to look straight or if I want it to look rough cut. And I decide for this particular purpose, I'd rather it be straight. So I just keep taking off a little at a time. I find it easier when I'm working with something that's precious like this to just go slow because you can't rebuild it afterwards. Once it's gone, it's gone. And if this paper has survived 170 years, I don't want to make a mistake. So now I'm fairly happy with that result. So I'm going to glue it on. I still don't know what I'm going to put in this envelope,
but I do like just having that little number piece on there from the original receipt. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to take a little off, and I'm going to angle it back because I realize, as much as I'm usually a ripping kind of person, I really like the idea of a clean angle there. I'll finish off the bottom of this envelope, and let's see what I figure out I want to put inside. Okay, so now I think I'm going to put a pocket on the bottom of this page, and I have a piece of packaging that I saved from Kim that I think maybe might work, but that's a lot of circles. I'm not sure it really goes with the vibe of the page, but you try on as many things as possible. I look at one of the kit pages, and I really like the actual script next to the postcard face. And I've included the postcards there because, as you heard, I was kind of hoarding them. And I decided I would make a pocket and put them in this pocket, and then I would know exactly where to find them, right? I could store them in my Happy Mail folder and enjoy them, and then when I was ready to use them and stop hoarding them, I'd know exactly where they were. So sticking them behind a little, pocket not only makes them organized in a place where I can find them, but it also adds to the layout. The beautiful postcard sticking out adds to the layout. So now what you saw me do was take a regular white envelope and then add a little of the file folder to it. I added the file folder because I love the shape. I think it'll make the top of the pocket will make it sturdier. And the envelope helps make the pocket more functional. You've already got the two sides sealed. You already have the back that just has to be glued on. And, just adding some trim to an already existing envelope is like an instant pocket. So now I've glued the kit paper on, and I've trimmed it. I folded it over because I'm not 100% sure whether or not I'm going to use something on the other side. Again, I'm always cautious to cut first. I like to try things on first. I'm going to add some ink just to sort of make that line, a good edge. And I try that on, and I like it. So now that I have the pocket set, I took it off camera and just threw some stitching in it to make it super, super sturdy. I'm going to glue this envelope on. And before I do that, I'm just going to put some tape on the little edges so that we don't see any of the white envelope under there. Let me say that when I'm putting a flip out envelope like this on, I know that it's going to be hard to slide things in and out of that envelope if I make it too flush to the page. Meaning, if I make it so close to the page that it just barely flips over, I won't be able to wiggle things in and out. Now I'm trying on papers for the back, and I was just using a regular book page when I realized that little envelope that I covered in yesterday's video, I can use here. It's the perfect size, and by adding it on the back of this flip out, it gives me another pocket. So this little covered coin envelope, I'm going to punch out a thumb hole, and by gluing it on the back of this envelope, I'm going to have 2 tuck spots, which makes me happy because lots of tuck spots are always a wonderful thing in a junk journal. So now I'm going to make sure I cover the bird. That's my first thing. I like the bird being behind it, not only for layout, but it's kind of like a cute little reveal when you open it. And now I'm going to glue it on with glue, but as you can see, I have it sticking out just a hair. You're going to see what I was talking about. I want to have a little bit of clearance for anything that I put in that pocket. I don't want it to be sticking straight out. And because that flap is a little bit shorter than the piece anyways, it totally works. Do you see how when I put these beautiful faces inside, all of a sudden the layout just starts popping? I decide I want one of those beautiful faces inside the envelope. So I'm going to cut a piece of cardstock, or actually file folder, and then I'm going to mount this beautiful fairy on the cardstock and make it a journaling card. In fact, I think it's going to be Kim's address card, so that when I want to write to her and I want to find her address, I can just slip this card out and her address will be on the back. Kim lives in an apartment, probably will move again in her lifetime, so I will type an address that I will just washi tape on the back of that so that I can always change out the address, but I'll always have it handy. And look how pretty that looks. I love how pretty that looks. So now I want to put something in the other tuck spot that I just added with the coin envelope. So I take out Sharon's kit again and I find this little piece of ephemera, which is the back of a cabinet card. And this is going to work perfect. It's narrow and it's the right dimension. I'm going to put it on a file folder like I did the other tag. And this tag will be a list of all the things Kim likes, maybe her birthday, where she's from, and just little things I can remember about her. So like when I'm giving her happy mail and I'm choosing things for her little envelope, I'll remember, oh, Kim collects playing cards, or she really likes gnomes. So that'll be perfect. So as you could see, I was pointing out that that file folder was kind of ugly. So I'm going to use some of the washi tape, and I'm going to make just a little tiny top collage out of some washi tape. I choose the part of the washi tape I want. I'll put the other piece on my glass. I can use it, and I will use it in this project. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of washi tape on the bottom. I'm using a little scrap piece of paper from the ledger that had a little number handwritten, and that'll be a journaling card where I can, just write what I need to write on the back of that cute little tag. I did it again. I didn't put my camera on when I needed to record, so as you can see, we're now in the middle spread. I don't think I really added much more to the back spread, but you'll see all the details I add when I do the final flip through of this at the end of the video. So if there are any of those little glitches, please just hang in there. You'll see everything. So as you can see, more of the same, taking a little bit of the digital and layering it in the back, and then using, music paper, which is my go-to. And this time I'm using a horizontally laid out music paper. Here's a piece of Edith Holden book. Our favorite, junk journalers love Edith Holden. I absolutely adored the fact that the patina, the creamy color of the paper fit with my music paper perfectly. They were the same tone, and I liked that a lot. The inside here is going to be a lot about woodland and gnomes. I really love my gnomes, and so does Kim. So this is going to be a much different vibe than the outside, which was more feminine and mystical and fantasy. The inside is going to be more woodland and definitely have that gnome Swedish feel to it, which both Kim and I enjoy. So I'm going to rough cut this edge because I don't like rough cut edges all over the place. I mean, I don't like smooth edges all over the place. This might even be a little bit too rough cut for me, but we'll end up seeing. I'll glue that edge down, and then I have a glassine envelope that Kim sent my postcards in, and I want it to be a pocket. And at first I think I'm going to glue it down. But I'm a little nervous about gluing it down because, remember, I have to punch holes where the binder comes through. And if the binder comes through that envelope, the envelope may not be big enough for postcards. So I end up sewing in just one side of it, and now it's like an extra page. And I'm really happy with that. Totally unplanned. And now I'm going to take a piece of the Edith Holden paper, and I'm going to glue down that and the music paper and make the background on the right hand side. Very neutral, very simple, but I really like it. I think it's going to be a perfect base for the gnomes, which are such bright colors and such vivid images that I want them to pop off the page without competing with anything too much. So now I'm just folding over my envelope, and I'm going to add some washi tape. Even though it is sewed in, I like the transition of the washi tape. It's going to keep it straight, and it just gives me a little bit better control over that page. This is an envelope Kim made from the first Happy Mail we did, and I'm just trimming the top so I can make it into a pocket. She had sent me other things, but believe it or not, I did use things at the beginning of this journey. I think I've become more of a hoarder. As I become friendlier with someone, I hoard their stuff more. It makes no sense. And I'm just going to put a butterfly over that little rip piece. There might have been a piece of tape that she had with maybe some twine, and it just kind of pulled a little white spot up. And I just want to cover it. So now I'm deciding if I'm going to put the postcards there or if I'm going to put them in the top pocket. I decide on the top pocket. And now I'm going to add a little butterfly to this envelope. I think it just makes it cute. And I know I want the first postcard back to show. It's just my favorite. I've had it on my wall for 3 years, and I want it to be able to see it when I come in. This little piece of die cut, this is a story for another day, but it's another friend, my friend Terry, who sells these die cuts in her shop. I'll link that below. She will be another page that I make in the future, and she sells already pre-cut die cuts in all sorts of beautiful, beautiful combinations. So that kind of becomes a resting spot for the postcard. I put a clip on the top to keep it in place. I've put another one of Terry's die cuts in the bottom left-hand corner. And now I'm putting one of these little translucent stickers, which I can't seem to get off its backing, onto the envelope. I know the packaging says they're stickers, but I swear I don't see any backing on it. But that's okay. You can't really tell. It looks fine. So now I need to punch those holes because we are putting this back in the binder at some point. And I'm finally going to get to use this beautiful fern washi tape that I bought from Kim's store. It's not her line. It's a line she carries, but I just love it. And it's going to be perfect for this spread. Just gives it a really nice frame. And now I just have to punch those holes once more. And I'll have to pick the washi tape out of those holes because, it is washi tape. It's sticky. And I love the way that looks. And this spread is really almost done. And I'm loving it. It's simple. It's bright. It's vibrant. And it's very gnomey, which I just absolutely adore. And I'm trying to see if there's any little spots I can add this washi tape on the left side just for consistency, to sort of, make sure I'm repeating patterns and just so that the layout makes sense. Last details are being added, a little bit more washi tape on the bottom. I put a piece of wildflower washi tape on the envelope, the little glassine envelope. I snip those threads, and you'll see me then decide that after I put the wildflower washi tape on the glassine envelope, and I do this because the glassine envelope is slightly sticking past this spread, which means you can see it on the outside spread. So I want it to be pretty, and I want it to sort of blend together. I want something from the inside spread to also be on the outside spread. So there's that cohesiveness. So there I go, a little bit of wildflower on that outside piece as well. And now it's just the little tiny details. It's trimming, it's cleaning things up, and then it's realizing that the paper clip is on the outside too, and I have nothing to clip into it. So of course, I have to have something pretty to clip into it. So I take this little slide frame and stick in that other little fairy image, glue it down. I add a eyelet to it, and now I will have an extra little piece to clip into my binder. It's really all about those little details that develop as you're creating a spread. It's what makes junk journals so magical and treasures in their own right. Let's take this outside and see it in natural light, and I'll go over it. So here we are. I am so happy with this spread and how it came out. I had really no idea how I was going to handle this, but just by laying out the pieces that I knew I wanted in there and starting and trusting the process. It all came together, and I think it's magical. I love the little eyelash trim. And in a million years, I never would have thought of using it like a little magical curtain. And I think it just works. The inside with the gnomes is bright and happy and reminds me of Kim and our love for gnomes. But it also leaves plenty of opportunity to add to it. I wanted to make sure these pockets had room for future letters, postcards, and things that I get from Kim, either through her store or through our correspondence. I want these spreads to grow with our friendship, to have a little bit of space where I can continue to add things. So it's okay that this inside is a bit simple because, our friendship isn't going anywhere, and I figure I'll have more things to add later on. So totally happy with how the inside was. And then this was the biggest surprise. I had no idea what to do with this page. I've been holding on to these beautiful postcards, and now I have a place to store them, and I know where they are. I love this little fold out. I love this little tag that talks about what Kim loves. It will remind me when I'm packing her little kit up what I should be looking for. That's what makes Happy Mail personal, adding those little touches to your Happy Mail. And it's a good little place for me to find that information. And then I have her address, right? I have her address on hand right here. And I can mail her. Oops. Let's try to edit that out there. I can mail her correspondence and easily get to that whenever I want to mail her a letter. And if her address changes, I'll just peel that piece of paper off and put a new piece of paper back on. I love the little interactive bits. I don't know if you can see I added a little sequin. I love the little slide. Just a couple little sequins can really add just that little magic. And since I had a little sparkle on the other side, I thought that was a nice little touch. I put a little bit of twine on the top of the tag. And now I'm going to put it in my binder, and let's see how it looks. It's very exciting to have my first friendship piece in here. I feel like I'm on my way. I may be slowing down my videos a little bit now. I won't be on the same pace because my binder is in fact created, and now I can take my time enjoying my friendships and making spreads one by one. Look how this looks next to the other piece. So different, but yet it works. I love the movement of the binder. I love that these fold-out flaps give me so much opportunity to make like lap book type elements. I will be trying to hit at least one friend a week. I'll continue with the freebies. Don't forget to get your beautiful fairy freebie from Kim this month. I would hate for you to miss out on that. Thank you, Kim, for your generosity to my viewers by including that in today's video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.